I've been to Takugama, and even before it was created over 30 years ago, I met Bala, who he said he rescued two young chimps. He said, I don't know what to do with them. And I said, well, you have to start a sanctuary. That's the result, is Takugama. And it's one of the very best sanctuaries in Africa.
Wow. Jane, I didn't know that. Thank you so much for revealing that. But do indulge me, because further back, and I'm talking about the 1960s, you were in Tanzania, weren't you? And you made some revolutionary discoveries about chimpanzees. What do you remember from that time, and just measure how things have changed since then?
Well, back then in Gombe National Park in Tanzania, I was the first person to study chimpanzees in the wild anywhere. Nobody
Wow.
studied them before. And so just about every observation I made was new and surprising. The fact that they can use and make tools, how their behavior is so like ours. And those days were probably the best days of my life, days of discovery.
Jane, I have to ask, now the problems that Takugama is suffering seems to be one of human progress versus protecting the wildlife in these parts of the world. How does it make you feel seeing that Takugama is going through this situation right now?
Yeah, well, we've seen the same situation happening around Gombe National Park, where we're still studying the chimpanzees. And the problem is human population growth and refugees coming from other parts and poverty. So Bala is doing what we have done, which is to try and improve the lives of the local communities so that they can find ways of living without destroying the environment.
Look, this could be a problem that's replicated in other areas and other habitats. Do you feel that things are going backwards then when it comes to the conservation of species like chimpanzees and others?
Well, compared to when I first went, there wasn't a problem. There were no mothers being shot to get babies for sale as pets or entertainment. And that's a problem that's gradually grown over the years. And the thing that's changed for the good is that there are sanctuaries in Africa. There's somewhere for these babies who've been rescued to go and live their lives. But as we see from the sanctuary in Sierra Leone, that is a problem as human populations grow. That's getting worse.
And Jane, I know that you'll be speaking at an event in London about Takugama later this month. What's going to be your main message to people? Because that will be quite a moment.
Well, the main message is going to be, first of all, of congratulations, because Takugama really is one of, if not the best sanctuary. The Jane Goodall Institute has a huge one, Chimpunga in Congo, and that's pretty good too. But I'll be talking about the threats to these sanctuaries, the threats to chimpanzee conservation outside the sanctuaries. And, these are our closest living relatives. We share 98.7% of our DNA with them. But wildlife across Africa is disappearing. And because we depend on healthy ecosystems for our very lives, then somehow we have to resolve this dilemma between feeding and caring for people and the need to also care for wildlife.
Jane, it's so fascinating to hear what you have to say on this. I know you've devoted so much of your life to this kind of thing, and humans always want a bit of reassurance that we're not messing things up. Is there any sort of glimmer of hope that things can get better again?
Well, we are going through pretty dark times, aren't we? Not just environmentally, but socially and politically. And so my main message today is to try and give people hope that things can get better. Because if we all lose hope, become apathetic and do nothing, we're doomed. So, one of my main reasons for hope is young people, once they understand the problems and we empower them to take action, they are changing the world as I speak. And then the resilience of nature, a place that's been utterly destroyed, give nature time and perhaps some help, and nature will come back. Species on the brink of extinction can be given another chance. And then there's this intellect of ours, which we're beginning to use wisely to find ways which will enable us to live in better harmony with the natural world on which we depend.